All right. I'm sharing the screen for chanting. Okay. So up to this, we have already learned to chant. So what we shall do first, we shall chant this portion. Okay. Together. Chant along. Om Apayantu Mamangani Vāk prāṇas cakṣuः śrotraṃ Atho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahmopanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam ma brahma nirakaro anirakarnam astu Anirakaranam mestu. Now, this last part. This call and we shall do first call and response. Tadatmani nirate. Tadatmani nirate. Ya Upanishatsu. Ya Upanishatsu. Dharmaste mai santu. Dharmaste mai santu. Te mai santu. Te mai santu. Om Shantihi. 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 Om Shantihi. 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 Let's do this last part together. Tadatmani nirate ya upanishatsu dharmaste mai santu. Te mai santu. Om Shantihi. 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 All right. What we shall do now is chant the entire peace chant together. Okay. Apayantu mamangani vāc prāṇas cakṣuः śrotraṃ atho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahmopanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam ma brahma nirakarot Anirakaranam astu Anirakaranam mestu Tadatmani nirate ya upanishatsu dharmaste mai santu te mai santu Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. So from the next class, we shall chant the entire peace chant at the beginning of the class. All right. So in the previous class, which was our second class, we saw that a And an earnest student is asking the teacher, who drives the sense organs, the mind, and vital energy? Because the student, through his or her training or intuition, analysis, had figured it out that these sense organs, the body, mind, vital energy, they are inert, insentient. So there must be something, an entity which guides them, directs them. And we saw the logic behind that anything that can be objectified and which is changing in nature cannot be the center of our personality. Otherwise, changing mind, changing sensations, changing experiences, these are all changing phenomena. So are we just a combination of synthesis of passing, changing experiences and sensations? Or is there anything which is changeless, which directs, guides, and wills to make these sense organs, mind, and vital energy function? That was the question. In the next mantra that we shall take up today, mantra number 2. We shall call it 1.2. This is 1.2 because there are 4 sections in this Upanishads, or 4 chapters, if we will. So this is the second mantra of first chapter, so we shall call it 1.2. In this mantra, mantra number 1.2, the teacher first assures the student that your intuition is right. Your intuition about the existence of an immortal, permanent, unchanging reality or entity is correct. Now, you need to make that intuition clear and complete. And so the teacher leads the student through some instructions or some props or some indications so that the student can find out on their own or through their further analysis what is the reality which does not change, which is the innermost core of human beings. And this is what Upanishad teaches us. This is the essence of entire Upanishadic teaching, which we don't find anywhere else. That there is an innermost core in human being which witness everything, which is the real mover of all the functions, which is what makes us what we are. Okay, so this is what the uniqueness about Upanishad. It is said this knowledge about our innermost core is called Atma Vidya. Atma really means our own self. Vidya means knowledge or wisdom about that. So this Atma Vidya or knowledge about our true identity cannot be had from anywhere else than Upanishad. Upanishad is the one Praman, single Pramana, single source of knowledge about this Atma Vidya. This is the beauty of the Upanishad. And Shankaracharya, I am not a die-hard fan of Shankaracharya, as you have already understood, but Shankaracharya's commentaries at some places and his insights at some places are indeed brilliant, brilliant, and which shows through these insights or commentaries that Shankaracharya, the force with which Shankaracharya is speaking, it makes us also think or convince us, at least at the intellectual level, that indeed there is such an entity. The force of the language is not speculative at many places. It comes as, like flash of light, flash of light. So in this mantra, which we are going to study today, mantra number 1.2, there Shankaracharya's one sentence is very powerful. I shall read the English one first, then the Sanskrit one, to give the idea of the force of the language. Shankaracharya says, there is a changeless reality at the innermost core of a person, which is unborn, ageless, deathless, and fearless, which is revealed to the intelligence of the wise, and which expresses itself through the functions of the ear and other sense organs, being the one source of all their diverse energies. In this one single sentence, Shankaracharya says a lot, that there is an innermost core of a person. And at the innermost core of the person, what is there? A changeless reality, unborn reality, ageless reality, a deathless reality. And this reality is revealed to the intelligence of the wise. And this entity expresses itself through the functions of the ear and other sense organs. That is, we can infer the existence of this reality through the functions of the ear, sense organs, and mind. And this reality, which is at the innermost core, is also the source of all these diverse energies. Think about it. All these are diverse things. Eyes trying to see, ears trying to hear, skin trying to feel, and nose trying to, get the sense of the fragrance, smell. All these are diverse things. But we don't feel ourselves as a diverse something. We feel that we are a unified whole. So according to Upanishads and according to Shankaracharya, the core of our being is the reality which is at the seat of all these diverse energies, which is like a director who is directing all these diverse energies. That is so Sanskrit of this, in Sanskrit, Shankaracharya's this commentary is asti kimapi vidvat buddhigamyam sarvantaratamam kutastham ajam ajaram amritam abhayam Shrotra dehe api shrotradi tat samartha nimittam. Only a few words, but so powerful. Asti kimapi. There is something. There is an entity which is revealed in the intelligence of the revealed to the intelligence of the wise. So now, what is the mantra? Let us look at the mantra. So much about the introduction. So much about the introduction about the mantra. Let us take a look at the mantra. And they say this mantra is the essence of this Upanishad. Okay. Rest of the Upanishad is explanation, extension, or elaboration on this mantra. Okay, powerful mantra. So what the teacher says? The teacher says, śrotrasya śrotraṃ, manaso mano yat, vāco ho vācaṃ, sa u prāṇasya prāṇaḥ, cakṣuṣaś cakṣur, atimucya dhīrāḥ, pretyā asmān lokāt, amṛtā bhavanti. So here are the meanings of the words which will be available in that shared document which I have shared with you. Yat, that spiritual entity. Okay, here one thing we have to remember, yat, that spiritual entity has to be connected with the devaha of the previous mantra. In the previous mantra, the student asked, what is that devaha? That is, what is that mysterious entity? What is that spiritual entity? What is the invisible entity which is which directs the eyes and the ears, which is behind mind, which directs the mind? So devaha, okay? Devaha first mantra is related to this yat, that spiritual entity. That spiritual entity is śrotraṃ, the ear, śrotrasya, of the ear of the ear. We shall see what does it mean in a moment. The mind of the mind, ha, and the speech of the speech. Moreover, sa, that entity, prāṇaḥ, the prāṇa, that is the vital energy, prāṇasya, of the prāṇa. It is the vital energy of the vital energy. Cakṣur, the eye, cakṣuṣaś, of the eye. Dhīrāḥ, the wise ones, atimucya, separating that entity from the sense functions, pretyā, transcend, asmān, lokāt, the sense life, amṛtā bhavanti, and attain immortality. So what if we put all of them together, what we get? That spiritual entity is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, and the speech of the speech. Moreover, that entity is the prāṇa of the prāṇa, the eye of the eye. The wise ones separating that entity from the sense functions, transcend the sense life, and attain immortality. The powerful mantra, very powerful mantra, and very profound one too. So teacher is trying to, so three topics are packed in this answer. Three topics. Number one, the indications or nature of that spiritual entity. The nature of that spiritual entity is the first topic. In Sanskrit, it is called Atma Sarupa. Atma is Atma, self, soul. Sarupa, what is this nature? What is the nature of Atma? What are the indications for self, soul, Atma? Number two, second topic, the wisdom, that is Atma Jnana, knowledge or realization of this spiritual entity. Third topic, consequence of this wisdom. In Sanskrit, Jnana Phalam. Three things, Atma Sarupa, Atma Jnana, and Jnana Phalam. Three topics are discussed or packed in the answer. That one is, what is the nature of that spiritual entity? And the need to have that wisdom, the wisdom of realizing the spiritual entity, and what is the consequence of the wisdom, what we shall get from this wisdom. These three things. The first thing is the nature of the spiritual entity. That devaha, as I said, that devaha of the previous mantra, where the student asked, what is that deva? What is that mysterious entity? What is the spiritual entity? So the teacher says, it is ear of the ear, the eye of the eye, the mind of the mind, etc. So this is an indication. And this is an indirect definition of that entity, which the student asked about. Indirect definition. The student asked, what is that entity that directs, wills, and the mind and sense organs? The teacher does not give a direct answer. What is the direct answer? What could be the direct answer?
Atman.
Yes, Atma or consciousness is the direct answer. Okay, but the Atma, yeah, the consciousness principle is the direct answer, but teacher is not giving that direct answer. Why? Probably it is this, but because so far, whatever the student has learned through their sense organs. And whatever the student has learned is, they could objectify it. They could objectify it. It was tangible. So suppose the teacher says it is consciousness, then the student might try to get that knowledge through the way they have got knowledge so far. And the student might, so where is consciousness? I want to see that consciousness. I want to objectify that consciousness. So it is not possible. It is invisible, intangible. Probably that is why the teacher is hinting at that spiritual entity through indications. Through indications. In Sanskrit, this is called lakshana. Indications. Okay. Instead of telling about a thing directly, we are giving some hints or indications about that entity. So three things about the spiritual entity. Three things the teacher is telling, or the spiritual entity or the consciousness. One, it is eyes of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind. That is, it is different from ear, different from mind, different from eye. Think about it. Eye of the eye means it is not eye. Mind of the mind means it is not mind. Ear of the ear means it is not merely ear. right? So it is different from ear, mind, eye, or vital energy. So what is the suggestions? Try to intuit that entity by the process of neti neti. So that is, that entity is not I, is not the ear, it is not even the mind, not the vital energy. So this is one suggestion, one indication about how to get hold of that spiritual entity. Second one is, at the same time, although it is not I, it is not mind, it is not vital energy, it pervades the ear, mind, eye, and entire body mind complex. That is, the entity is present everywhere and present even in the mind, ear, eyes, and vital energy. It is not any of these, but it is present in all of this. And thirdly, it is the heart in the sense, this is the essence of ear, mind. That is, this is the entity what makes the ear and ear, the mind, and so on. That is, without this consciousness, without this spiritual entity, none of them will be what they are. Without the presence of this spiritual entity, none of them will function. So these three things are hinted about when it is said it is the mind of the mind, ear of the ear, vital energy of the vital energy. Three things can be gleaned from this advice, that it is different from ear, different from mind, different from eye. So how do you get it? How do you reach it? How do you realize it? How do you get a grasp of it? First, you have to say, I am not this I am not this ear, I am not this mind, I am not this vital energy. So process of not this, not this. At the same time, this entity is present everywhere, pervades the eye, ear, mind, etc. And it is the essence of mind, ear, in short, of the entire psychophysical complex, psychophysical being. So what the teaching? The teaching is, you are that spiritual entity. You are that spiritual entity, that invisible entity that is at your innermost core. At the same time, when you are telling that you are that spiritual entity, you have to exclude your body, mind, and sense organs. So when I am telling Aham Brahmasmi, or I am Atma Brahma, I am the Atma, or I am the Brahma, then at the same time, we have to exclude our mind, body, and other things from this I. When I am telling I, that I is not this body, mind, and sense organs. In the beginning, this is the practice. Because at the end, ultimately we will find that I am all of this and I transcend all of this. But uh, in the process before we realize or gain that wisdom, our sadhana practice is I am Atma, which is non-material, unobjectifiable, and which is not this mind, body, or sense organs. So what the teacher is struggling to convey? The teacher is struggling to convey that you are the non-material, unobjectifiable witness consciousness. This is what the teacher is trying to convey or struggling to convey, which is so difficult, that you are non-material, unobjectifiable witness consciousness alone. So this is the first thing, the first topic, the nature of that spiritual entity, nature of the spiritual entity, lakshana or indications about that. Then wisdom, there is a need to get this knowledge, to realize this truth. We have to infer from the verse. Okay, the first part of the verse was that it is the mind of the mind, eye of the eye, etc. Then last part was that the wise ones go beyond these sense organs and realize their immortal reality. So in between should come that the need for wisdom, that we have to infer from the mantra, having realized that I am that non-material, unobjectifiable witness consciousness. What happens? What happens is the third topic, consequence of the wisdom or jnana phalam. It dhīrāḥ, the wise ones, one who has. Who are the wise ones? Who are the dhīrāḥ? One who has a subtle intellect. What kind of subtle intellect? Subtle intellect to conceive of a non-material, non-objectifiable consciousness. It requires a subtle intellect, and those who have it are called dhīrāḥ, who have that kind of subtle intellect that can think of or conceive of a non-material, non-objectifiable consciousness. That they are the dhīrāḥ, the wise ones. Shankaracharya, in his commentary, he writes about dhīra, this word, that without extraordinary intelligence, it is not possible to overcome the identification of the self with the organs of hearing, etc. Indeed, it is so difficult for us to conceive of something non-material, unobjectifiable. Whenever we think about us, what we think, what we feel we are, that this physical existence, this mind, but beyond all these things, transcends all those things, is that spiritual entity, which is not objectifiable, so which requires a subtle intellect. In Vivek Chudamani also, Shankaracharya in verse number 160, he says very interesting thing. He says, a person of ordinary intelligence thinks they are only the body. They identify themselves with body alone. The book learned one, those who have read books and scriptures, they think they are a mixture of body and soul, atma and anatma. That yes, there is atma and anatma, both. I have both. I have body-mind complex, and at the same time, there is a mixture. There is atma in me too, according to the scriptures. So atma is in me. And he says, the wise one, purified by the wisdom and discernment, looks upon themselves as limitless spiritual awareness. Limitless spiritual awareness. Wonderful verse, 160. And it is so true. Most of us, we feel that we are this body or body-mind complex. And through and the progress from there is when we have some conviction of our spiritual nature. Then we are also think that we are a mixture of the self and non-self, atma, anatma, mixture of atma and anatma. But the wise ones who could discern and who could had the knowledge, they no longer think that they are this limited existence. They know themselves to be that vast, limitless existence, vast, limitless spiritual awareness. These are three types of buddhi. So how one can become dhīrāḥ? How can one have that kind of subtle intelligence? These are all part of the preliminary sadhanas or a student of Vedanta. And we have seen previously four spiritual disciplines. Four spiritual disciplines. The gist of all, or all of them, can be boiled down to these two things. One is a disciplined life. A disciplined life to check our outgoing tendencies, to get an idea, conviction, and ultimately realization of this spiritual entity. We need to go inside. For that, we need to check our outgoing tendencies. And second is the habit of regular meditation. Without meditation, it is not possible to intuit about the existence of such non-material consciousness. It is not possible to intuit about the existence of such non-material consciousness. This is very important. This is very important to have even a conviction that yes, there is a part of me or a dimension of me which is beyond this body, mind, and thoughts, beyond the thoughts, which exist as it is, and which is unchanging, which is not affected by our experiences. To have a conviction about it, it is indeed meditation, and regular meditation is extremely important. Extremely important. Anyway, but let me also tell you one fact. There is one school of Advaita Vedanta which also has prominence or gaining momentum with time. They think meditation is not necessary. Okay, they think meditation is not necessary because meditation is ultimately an experience, and any experience is a changing thing. But we are talking about something which is unchanging, which is not an experience. My advice: don't listen to them. don't listen to them. Okay, those who say meditation is not necessary, they say only shravana, only listening to scriptures will be enough. But what about manana, and what about nididhyasana? Nididhyasana means meditation. Nididhyasana means deeply dwelling on those truths. It's meditation, clearly meditation. And if we go by Shankaracharya, who is the, at the, we say the father figure of Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya in Vivek Chudamani, he says, manana is 100 times better than shravana. And nididhyasana, that is meditation, 1,000 times better than manana. Manana means, this analysis, intellectual analysis. So meditation is important. So also is important to check our outgoing tendencies to lead a disciplined life, to get even an intellectual conviction or idea about the spiritual entity the Upanishad is trying to teach us. Upanishad is trying to indicate to us. Okay. And in fact, if we look at so-called all the realized people, all the illumined people, all had regular habit of meditation. Regular habit of meditation. Okay. So by logic, by argument, I can say so many things that meditation is not important, meditation is not needed, all those things. But if we look at the life of the people who got this knowledge, got this wisdom, all of them meditated. Okay. So we have to be careful about that. Anyway, that is how we can become dhīrāḥ. And what happens to the dhīra? The last part of the mantra, atimucya dhīrāḥ pretyā asmān lokāt amṛtā bhavanti. So this part can be interpreted in two ways. Okay. One is a traditional interpretation. Another is not traditional interpretation. And I have chosen the non-traditional interpretation, which makes more sense to us. Okay. The traditional interpretation of the atimucya dhīrāḥ is about after death scenario. Atimucya dhīrāḥ means after death, asmān lokāt pretyā, while living this physical world, amṛtā bhavanti, attain immortality. The wise ones, after death, while living this world, attain immortality. That is, what kind of liberation they are speaking about here? The traditional one, after death.
Kramamukti.
Huh?
Kramamukti.
Okay. And here, close to. We studied in Isha Upanishad, right? Disembodied,
Gradual.
Videha Mukti.
right? Videha mukti. You remember in Isha Upanishad, the Isha Upanishad, we studied this thing. There are three ways, possible ways of exiting this world. So one is the going and coming back, right? Going and by the pull of the karma come back. Another is gradual. So one has done, great deal of spiritual progress, and slowly they don't come back into the cycle and gradually get their liberation. And the third one, which is a rare one, which is said, is videha mukti. That is, those people already had mukti, knowledge, wisdom, which was called jivan mukti. They were liberated. They had the wisdom even while living. Okay. But by the force of the residue karmas, they had their body going. Okay. So when the body drops, then they get the ultimate liberation called videha mukti. This is the traditional interpretation of this last part of the mantra, that those who have had this knowledge, having known what? That spiritual entity is eye of the eye, mind of the mind. That means they have jivan mukti here, and at the time of death, they get the final liberation called videha mukti. Got it? So they first, if we look into that, having known what? Having realized that this entity is different from all the material things. At the same time, this reality or entity is also pervades eyes, mind, and senses. And this entity, spiritual entity, is the essence of our existence. Those who have realized this truth, they become illumined already. They already get moksha. Okay. They have to wait for their body to drop until they get the final liberation, vidha mukti. Okay. If you just go back and see the chart, the three possible way of exit in Isha Upanishad, we studied. Go back and look at that. It will become clear. So that is the traditional interpretation of this last part. And I prefer this one. In this life itself, atimucya. Atimucya can also mean those who can separate. That is, after separating the mysterious entity from the sense functions. After separating the mysterious entity from sense organs or sense functions. How? How? What is the process?
Niti.
Right. You just learned. Not this, not this. I am not this, I am not this. Okay. And what happens to them? Asmāt lokāt pretyā. They transcend the sense life. That is, they no more identify themselves with body-mind complex alone. And identifying ourselves with our body-mind complex alone is the sense life. But they transcend. How? Because they could separate this innermost core from, as it were, the outer core of all the sense organs, body, mind, vital energy, feelings, emotions, thinking, ego. They could separate this entity, spiritual entity, the innermost entity from all of this, and they attain immortality. As soon as they transcend this sense of limited existence, that is the idea that we are whatever is under our skin, this limited existence, as soon as they transcend that limited existence, they attain immortality. That is, they discover the limitless dimension of their being. They discover their limitless dimension of their being. They no longer then think themselves at this finite body-mind complex. And if we go back to Isha Upanishad, that is the goal, right? And that is the permanent solution of our problem called moho and shoka. Isha Upanishad, mantra 6, those who identify themselves with the entire existence, those who feel oneness with the entire existence, what delusion, what suffering can be. Because at the heart of our problems, according to this worldview of the Upanishad, is thinking that we are this finite being, that we are incomplete, we need things to complete ourselves, and that drives our desires, dukkha, tanha, whatever we say. So they become free from all these problems, and this becoming free from this root fundamental problem of thinking ourselves as this finite being is called immortality, amṛtā bhavanti. They become immortal, or they become free from this finite life, finite existence. All right. So what is the summary of this mantra? And summary of this mantra is profound. Summary of the mantra is this: the spiritual entity about which you asked, that is, the student asked, which drives the sense organs, the vital energy, the mind, that spiritual entity is the innermost core of human beings. That spiritual entity is the innermost core of human beings. It is consciousness itself, pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanya. It is different from body-mind complex, but it pervades the body-mind complex, and it makes the body-mind complex what they are. Through spiritual intelligence, the wise ones can discern that spiritual entity from the body-mind complex, and then they transcend the material existence and realize their limitless, vast nature, which is the state of everlasting joy, knowing our vast, limitless, infinite nature. Okay, so we shall see more explanation about this mantra later on. All right, I am going slowly. Okay, I am taking one mantra one by one, because what is the need of rushing, right? What is the need of there? I often quote, there is a subhashita, good sayings in Sanskrit, proverb, that when you are earning money, when you are, doing income, when you are earning money, at the time of earning money, at the time of gaining wealth, you should think that you don't have much time left. Do it quick, as much as possible. But when you are studying scripture, shastra, you should think that you have infinite time. Infinite. There is a great wisdom in this proverb. We should not rush through, that how many we have read, how many mantras. I prefer going slowly. All right. But you are welcome to ask questions about today's lesson.
Maharaj,
Yeah.
taking the first mantra and this one together, if I take a step back,
Mm-hmm.
aren't we making an assumption that there is only one entity? Aren't we starting at, how do we know that it's one and not many?
This is inference. Inference, not many in the sense.
I
Yes.
can.
Yes.
Yes.
The logic is this: that one reality which is in you, say one reality, and which is in me, my innermost core and your innermost core. Okay. They don't differ.
Even my innermost core,
Mhm.
I have the sense that there is one I, but who is to say that it's just an illusion of many different things forming into one identity?
Indeed, this is what modern research, neuroscience is also telling. That the idea of self could be an epiphenomenon. It's an emergent property. Okay. So Upanishad is taking another view that there is one fundamental reality, and which is one. There is a logic. We shall come to that later on. Where the sound is coming from? Somebody has to mute. Okay.
Maharaj,
All
I
right.
have a question.
Just a minute. So this is Upanishadic idea of that there is one self, the one entity, reality, which is unchanging, which is unified, one thing, which is everywhere, that is making and that is working through our sense organs and things like that. Okay, and we are trying to understand what Upanishad is trying to say, but ultimately, can we prove it? No. Experience is the only proof. Experience is the only proof. Okay. But if we go in an argument with a neuroscientist who can very well demonstrate that the idea of sense could be an illusion, that is, it is an epiphenomenon they call, or emergent property for our survival. There is no such thing called an self, atma, what even Buddha said, there is no fundamental reality. Okay. Yes, Arundhati.
Yes, Maharaj. So the realization is an experience, correct?
Yes.
So when you said that experience is changing in this other school, basically Shravana is only necessary.
Yes.
What does that mean? Like this experience of Brahman, once you get it, it's unchanging, isn't it?
Yeah, we are getting an experience of an unchanging reality, but ultimately it's an experience. Okay. So it is their logic that ultimately it is an experience. But the problem is what what they do is every experience is not of equal category. Is not it? They say that every experience is changing, it's here and now gone, but we are looking for permanent reality, but it is a experience only, and experience happens through mind. So how can you think of experience? But even our limited intelligence say that all experience are not of same quality, right? There are really some experiences which are transforming, life transforming. So that is the mistake they make. Okay, by reducing it to experience, by reducing the realization to and giving the name, it is just an experience. That is the mistake they do, and that is why they say meditation is not necessary, because samadhi is an experience. They would say samadhi is an experience. It's in a state of mind. So that is the fallacy of their logic. Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
But yeah, thank you, Victoria. Victoria says something interesting and very true. The masters of all have the same experience of oneness, wholeness during samadhi. So this is something interesting, that all the mystical experiences, or even any kind of higher experience, gives us a sense of oneness. Gives us a sense of oneness. Okay, that can give us a hint that the reality is one. The reality is one, the sense of oneness. Anand, this is to your question. Okay, a sense of oneness with everything. That means there is a fundamental reality, one reality, because of which I am finding oneness with everything. Okay, this is one way of looking at it. Okay, what was the other question about? Okay, chat. Okay, Simon, infinite time with scriptures reminded me of this quote, Lao Tzu, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Okay, good one. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Good. Can you recommend any books on the 5 sheets? Would that be a good place for a beginner to come familiar with? Okay, 5 sheets directly, yes. Tattvabodha. Tattvabodha is a primer. Tattvabodha. Okay, I am replying to how to reply. Okay, name of the book I am writing.
He's writing something.
Yeah, Tattvabodha. So that book gives a great deal of discussion. 5 sheets, even Vedanta Sara does that. Vedanta Sara, primer books. Yeah. Any other question?
This is a comment, not a question. But you're saying to Anand, he's immortal, his inner soul and your inner soul. So like one infinity and other, there cannot be two infinities. It has to be only one infinity.
Right. There are logics. Yeah. There are, yes. Indeed. So sometimes I forget all the logics, for it. The logic one is, if I am at that height of the realization, if I find myself infinite, that reality infinite, then and you are also finding yourself infinite, because how many infinite can there be? If I find that reality is infinite and you are also finding that reality is infinite, how many limitless infinite realities or entities could be there? Thank you, Subhash, for supplying me with the argument and logic. Okay. Knowing your inner self requires a high level of reflection and introspection, is not it? Also, a self-awareness is required. Do you think this develops over the time? Yes, this develops over the time with practice. Okay, so regulated life, regular habit of meditation, and reading Upanishads and dwelling on its meaning. That is the way to go. That is the way to go.
So I'm going to do one really quick question. So you know how we talked about saying neti, about all of the layers. So I guess for the mind, I feel like it's the harder one to say neti because
Indeed.
the mind.
Indeed.
Understanding everything. So
go ahead.
I feel like it's really just doing the meditation, I guess, that gets you. But I feel like the mind is also the biggest obstacle to doing meditation.
Indeed. But one thing happens in the habit of meditation or the practice of meditation is we slowly understand that we are not entirely our mind. We are not entirely our thoughts. Because in meditation, we find that we are clearly perceiving our thoughts. We can distinguish ourselves from our thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So that shows that we are not our thoughts.
Something separate from us. Yeah.
Yeah. And secondly, we sometimes can feel that today my mind is not good, right? That means I am not my mind. Is not it?
Yeah.
When I can say that my car is not fine today, is not in a good shape.
Yeah.
But had I been my car, I could not have been said so.
Exactly.
Because I am not my car, I can say that my car is not in a good shape today. Right.
Yeah.
So that is the analysis behind this presence of a spiritual entity.
Yeah.
I can feel that my mind is dull today. That means I am not mind. Right.
Yeah.
But the real problem is that we can get that I am not my mind. The problem is even subtler, distinguishing us from our ego.
Yeah.
Okay. Ego is what gives us a sense of who I am. I can close my eyes. I am not my body, right? I have a body. I have. Yes, I am not my mind. I can see what is happening in my mind. But behind that, the idea that there I am. And according to Vedanta, that is the closest we usually go to our real self. I am. Okay. And with I am comes a object. I am this. There is the problem. Okay. I am Siman. That part is problem. I am Swami Ishadhananda. There two things are getting mixed. This ego, they say ego is a very fine thing. That's why it can reflect the light of consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, so there, actually it is happening there, that I, Siman, I, Ishadhanananda, these two particulars are getting mixed up with the limitless thing called I, the real I.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is more problematic than, that is more difficult to
separate. Yeah.
separate ourselves from our mind.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. That was
Sure. Thank you for asking this question.
Swamiji, if I can make a comment, I was just thinking about the same, going back to the discussion we were having earlier, is your atman different from somebody else's atman? Are they all different? One example I've seen that's been helpful to me is the example, very simple example. I think it's even in the gospel. A potter would fashion multiple, kind of pottery objects from the same clay. Of course, they look different, with different shapes and so on, but its essence is the same. It's the clay. Or another example I hear is animal crackers. The same cracker shaped like for kids. You have so-called animal crackers. Cookies or biscuits shaped like different animals. Multiplicities, but I think it's almost a no-brainer that they're really the same. Except to a child it may not be, but to us adults, it's shaped like a tiger or a kangaroo, makes no difference. It's the same thing, right? We get it at that level. I'm just offering it as one way to think about it in very simplistic terms.
Yes.
That these are just different multiplicities. Ultimately, you can ignore the the manifestation
and go to the essence of what we.
Then we all sort of, it's the same essence.
Indeed.
In all of us.
In the essence, there is no multiplicity, right?
Right.
Like the water. Another example is water in the different shaped pots. Water in jar, water in glass, water in there. So the Atman in Anand, Atman in me, Atman in Pritiji, Atman in Noel. So they are in different shapes, if we are allowed to say at this time. This Atman is now associated with the shape, the name and form of Anand and me, Pritiji, Noel, Sureshji. But essentially, it's the same water, just like in every pot. Okay, this is what Upanishad is trying to tell us.
Hi, Swami. This is Anshul. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Anshul. Yes.
So, from my limited learnings and understanding, I have understood that all of these are concepts on the intellectual level, and then eventually, at some point, these concepts point to something, and then once you understand that, you drop the concept.
Right.
And is meditation the only way to move from that intellectual level away from the intellectual level, where there's that one saying where you use a thorn to remove a thorn, and once you understand it, you just drop all the concepts at some point?
Indeed, very good question. Very good question. According to my understanding, it might happen in three ways at least. Okay, one is our continuous effort of meditation, nididhyasana. Second, it may suddenly flash, which is maybe an incremental effort in our part to understand that reality, but suddenly it may flash on our mind. And there are examples of that. Those who did not have to struggle much, did not have to meditate much, but the reality just flashed. Okay, fortunate ones, and there are more exceptions than rules. Okay. Thirdly, which is hardly difficult to prove, it can happen through the grace of an illumined person. Okay, which we have to dismiss. I mean, we don't have to worry about so much because we don't know who is that illumined person who can give it. But there are many stories and many recorded evidence that this flash of this infinite reality can happen through the grace of and spiritually powerful, spiritual giants, in fact, spiritual giants. For example, if we believe in the life of Swami Vivekananda and what he said about his first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, that Swami Vivekananda was skeptical about this idea of all-pervading consciousness, everything is consciousness. And he was actually ridiculing this idea. What do you want to say that this pot, this bowl, this glass, all this is consciousness? Then Sri Ramakrishna goes into a higher state of ecstasy and touches Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda says, I get an overwhelming idea that everything is consciousness. And it is not a momentary thing. It remained with him a few days, where he could see everything conscious. Okay, everything could conscious. So these are the three ways, but for us, it is our effort and smart effort, smart effort. Not only that I am trying to meditating hard, but how do we do the meditation also? For that we need to be patient, and slowly we should progress.
I see. And
got it, Anshul? Got it,
yeah,
Anshul?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. Bhakti is part of that, or is it kind of separate? It's like one way on the intellectual level, or then do they kind of merge, like
Yes.
the self-inquiry and then the bhakti, or?
Yes, they both. In fact, they help each other. They are not contradictory to each other.
Okay, got it.
They
Thank
are
you.
not contradictory to each other, and especially according to Sri Ramakrishna, anything can happen. One can get a experience of that reality. Then one can have that might prompt that person to have intense devotion to a formless or even to a form. Okay, then one can have the glimpse or the realization of that reality from devotion to a personal God. It can, in fact, Shankaracharya says that bhakti leads to jnana. Bhakti leads to jnana. Okay, through bhakti, mind becomes ready, fit to have that knowledge. And that's why we see that even those so-called realized people, that is those who had this knowledge through the path of neti or knowledge, jnana yoga, even after their knowledge, they were all great devotees. All great devotees. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, Anshul. Thank you. I think this is so helpful. We say, I am not my mind, I am not my feelings. Then we get down to what is left, the experience of myself that I am having right now. Then we can go deeper and deeper into that feeling experience. Exactly. Not this. Then when what is will happen, we will have no doubt. Okay. So this is something that I am say negating. I am not body. I am not mind. Then what I am? Then what I am, when that will reveal, I shall have no doubt about what I am. Okay.
Swamiji, I also wanted to add, based on Anshul's question, some people also, it's really interesting. I've seen some videos of people who've had like near-death experiences. And they actually talk about experiencing the oneness. And it is literally so close to Vedanta. And it's like really interesting because they don't know about Vedanta, but they talk about experiencing this oneness and how it's like pure unconditional love and how time doesn't even exist. And it's really, really interesting.
Indeed. And that is why, this study of this spirituality has recently gained so much of interest in scientific circle, real science. Scientists are now, because this experience of oneness, which along with the experience brings a sense of peace, deep peace, and a connection with everybody is so important that whosoever having this mystic experience, and actually Abraham Maslow said, this kind of peak experiences transform ourselves. And in fact, this ability to have this kind of peak experience, according to Abraham Maslow, is the goal of our life. That is the higher reach. When we have actualized our whole potential, then we can have peak experiences, like mystical experiences like this. And according to Abraham Maslow, because he was a psychologist, that is the benchmark, highest benchmark for mental health. The ability, the capacity to have peak experience. Of course, Maslow is not talking about this kind of experience, limitless, vast. But Maslow says, even suppose I am sometimes looking at the sunset, I feel, my sense of time has erased. The boundary between me and the other has become blurred. This kind of peak experience, mystic experiences, is possible when our mind is at very healthy level. Okay. And of course, then he brings in the concept of transcendence, when we can transcend ourselves. Interestingly, the last Sunday in the New York Vedanta Society, there was a talk by a great psychologist of Columbia University, Scott Perry Kaufman, is a writer of 10 books on psychology, and he teaches in Columbia University. And a young man of 40, wonderfully speaks about this Maslow's. The title of the talk is "The Science of Self-Actualization." Science of self-actualization, and there you will see at some moments he goes to that the idea of the mystical experience and spiritual experiences. And according to him, which has been tested, which is scientifically proven, that this transcendence is a sign of great mind. In pure terms of mental health, the ability to transcend ourselves and experience something, a oneness, is he says, the full potential. He gives the analogy of a sailboat, that when we are trying to get the boat steady, okay, in an ocean, that is like meeting all the needs. We are trying to get the boat steady. But when the boat is steady and we have unfurled our sail, now we are aiming for exploration, growth, and transcendence. He says that then we have transcended the need, the lower needs of, to be appreciated, to be loved, to feel secure. When we have secured all of these things, then this higher dimension of our personality takes off, and we aim for transcendence. So interesting, how much correlation there is about Vedanta's idea of oneness and spiritual experience, and what psychology has come to. All right. I thought today's class will be a short one. I shall get more time to do the meditation. So what today we are skipping the meditation. It is already 7:30. Okay. But wonderful insights and questions from you.
Maharaj, only one question or whatever I thought that this highest experience, how does it help in our day-to-day life? Because we are living in this world, but the people who Jivan Muktas or whatever, the illumined people, how they help. So we can find it in Sri Ramakrishna's life also. Though he experienced the highest reality, but he was instructed to be in bhavamukha, like you take up a bhava and do your work for the humanity and all. So that is also a very great outcome of this. When after having this experience or nearer to this experience, how it helps in our day-to-day life. It should help in our day-to-day life. It should not be, I should not be isolated with my experiences.
Not at all. Not at all. There lies the utility. There lies the utility. And Vedanta's main point is this, that they are talking about something which solves all our fundamental problem. Okay, fundamental problem. Imagine that you feel fulfilled all the time. Imagine you feel you are one with everybody, not only your immediate relatives and friends. You feel one with everybody. What an exalted state of life, is not it? So there lies the practice. Had there been no practical value, then nobody would have been interested at all. Okay, I get the knowledge and I remain there and that's it, gone. No, it has to have a practical implication to in our life. It should change our life. And frankly speaking, it is not even an on or off kind of thing. We progress. As we progress little by little, we see that transformation is happening in our life. We get more peace. Secondly, we get more stability in our life. Things which used to part of us earlier does not part of us so much now. Even if they part of us, we become normal again. They don't have the sway over us for long time. And also the intensity of the perturb feeling perturbed is less. Okay, less. So three things happens if we pursue spiritual life. One is the intensity of the how frequently we are getting angry. Suppose how frequently we were earlier getting perturbed. That frequency will be less. It's reduced. Not that I will not be perturbed at all, but less. Secondly, what is the magnitude or intensity of that perturbance? So now I am not so much perturbed. Thirdly, how long how long I remain perturbed? That is recovery period. Recovery period from the perturbance. Earlier, it used to take me 2 days, 3 days to get recover from that state. Now, probably in a few minutes, I can come back to my normal state. So even that's why in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, "Salpamapi asa dharmasva trayate mahato bhayat." Even a little bit of what I am speaking to you, even a little bit of it, if you can do, it will save you from great suffering. It will save you from great suffering. Okay. So although our aim and our goal will be to have this kind of experience and realization, I am one with everything, I am infinite. But even if we may not make it, still there is immense benefit in our life.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, with this happy note, and the invitation to, you may, if you like, you can watch that video I mentioned, Vedanta Society of New York, in their YouTube, the latest video, Self-Discovery, the Science of Self-Actualization by Professor Scott Perry Kaufman. Scott Perry.
Okay.
Okay, with this happy note, let's end. See you next Friday. And those who I send email, those who attend the class, what I send, the mantra and its transliteration and meaning. And if somebody has missed the class and asks me about the video recording, I send to them. So if anybody wants to get in, listed, let me know their email ID. I will put them into that distribution list. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Good night.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes.
Pranam,
Yes.
Maharaj.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Pranam.
Thank you.
Good night, Swamiji.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.